There's a hidden pattern that governs dysfunctional families, a dynamic as subtle as it is devastating. The scapegoat. Have you ever noticed how in some families there's always that one child who carries all the blame, all the anger, all the projection of problems that the adults can't face in themselves? This child isn't born problematic. They are chosen to be the repository of the family's shadow. Robert, the narcissistic father, needs a target for his own unhealed wound. He needs someone to absorb his anger, his frustration, his existential void. And the child chosen as the scapegoat becomes the mirror where he projects everything he refuses to see in himself. But here's the truth. Few dare to speak. The scapegoat isn't the weak victim the family believes them to be. Jung discovered something revolutionary about this dynamic. He realized that whoever carries the shadow of others develops a unique ability to see through the masks, to perceive the lie behind the social persona. The scapegoat unknowingly becomes the most conscious member of the family. But this consciousness comes shrouded in pain, in confusion, in a deep sense of not belonging. But what Jung discovered about transforming this pain will change how you see your own healing journey. Do you recognize yourself in this description? Were you that child who was always wrong, always exaggerated, always too sensitive or too rebellious? Did you grow up carrying the weight of being responsible for your father's moods, for family conflicts, for a harmony that never truly existed? How many times were you told that you were the one causing the problems? How many times was your sensitivity called weakness, your intuition paranoia, your perception of the truth exaggeration? How many times did you feel crazy for noticing things no one else seemed to see? Look at your current relationships. How many times do you put yourself in the role of savior, trying to heal emotionally unavailable people? How many times are you drawn to partners who repeat your father's pattern? People who project their shadows onto you, who make you feel responsible for their emotions? Observe your inner dialogue. Listen to how you talk to yourself. Do you hear echoes of your father's critical voice? Do you punish yourself before the world does? Do you sabotage your successes because deep down, you still believe you don't deserve prosperity? As long as you carry guilt that isn't yours, your true strength remains dormant. As long as you wear the mask of the problematic one, the too sensitive one, the one who's always wrong, your true self suffocates in the basement of consciousness. Do you recognize this pain? It's because you were programmed by this pattern. And today you will understand not only how it works, but how to transform it into your greatest source of power. To understand your healing, you first need to comprehend the psychological mechanics behind the role imposed on you. Robert, the narcissistic father, is a man who never developed a healthy relationship with his own shadow. He is governed by a wounded father complex, an inner child who was never seen, validated, or unconditionally loved. He lives in constant flight from his vulnerability. He built a rigid persona, a mask of strength, control, and superiority that hides a deep void. But the shadow doesn't disappear when we ignore it. It intensifies, demands expression, seeks a vessel. This is where the scapegoat comes in. You became the family's shadow collector. You were unconsciously chosen to carry everything your father couldn't recognize in himself. The anger, the sadness, the vulnerability, the fear, the sense of inadequacy. Imagine a broken mirror where each fragment reflects a different part of reality. Robert, the narcissistic father, looks at you and sees only the fragments that confirm his projection. He doesn't see who you really are. He sees his own shadow reflected back at him. And this terrifies him, because it forces him to confront what he fears most in himself. That's why the reaction is always disproportionate. That's why the anger, the rejection, the constant need to diminish you. It's not about you. It never was about you. It's about his inability to integrate his own psychic wholeness. First way, recognize that you were the family's unpaid therapist. Since childhood, you developed an extraordinary ability to read others' emotions, to feel unspoken tensions, to absorb and process others' pain. This isn't a weakness. It's a psychic superpower that needs to be recognized and honored. Your sensitivity isn't a defect to be corrected. It's a highly developed emotional antenna. You were forced to develop this ability as a survival mechanism. Now it's time to use this skill to your advantage, to read people and situations with surgical precision. Second way, understand that your rebellion was actually heroic resistance. Every time you questioned, refused to accept family lies, expressed your truth even when punished for it, you were defending your psychic integrity. You were the only one brave enough not to pretend everything was okay. This resistance, which was called stubbornness, problematic, or rebellious, was actually your true self refusing to be annihilated. It was your soul fighting to stay alive. Honor that courage. Recognize that you were the truth warrior in a family addicted to lies. Third way. Stop apologizing for taking up space. The scapegoat is programmed to make themselves small, to not bother anyone, to carry the guilt of simply existing. You learned that your presence caused problems, so you developed the habit of minimizing yourself. But your existence isn't a problem to be solved. You have the sacred right to take up space in this world, to have opinions, to express your needs, to shine without asking permission. Every time you make yourself small to comfort the fragile ego of others, you betray your own soul. Fourth way. Transform your hypervigilance into refined intuition. You were forced to develop a supersonic emotional radar to detect mood shifts, danger signs, toxic energy. This hypervigilance, which today may seem exhausting, is actually an evolved form of intuition. Learn to use this ability consciously. Trust your gut feelings about people and situations. Your ability to detect manipulation, falsehood, and vampiric energy is a gift that can protect you and guide you toward authentic relationships and opportunities. Fifth way. Refuse to be the emotional savior of dysfunctional adults. You were trained to feel responsible for others' emotions, to try to heal wounds that aren't yours, to carry burdens that don't belong to you. This pattern extends to all your adult relationships. Set clear boundaries. It's not your responsibility to manage anyone's moods. It's not your job to heal people who don't want to heal themselves. You can have compassion without sacrificing yourself. You can love without erasing yourself. True love doesn't require you to lose yourself in the process. Sixth way. Rebuild your relationship with anger. The scapegoat is taught that their anger is unacceptable, dangerous, destructive. You learn to suppress, deny, or direct this anger against yourself. But anger is a sacred emotion that indicates when your boundaries have been violated. Your anger is valuable information about what is unacceptable in your life. It is the guardian of your dignity, the defender of your values. Learn to feel your anger without fear, to express it constructively, to use it as fuel for necessary changes. Integrated anger becomes personal strength. Seventh way. Heal the inner child who still seeks your father's approval. Part of you is still trying to prove your worth to someone who was never truly able to see you. This inner child continues to seek approval, trying to be good enough, perfect enough, quiet enough. Become the father you always needed. Give your inner child the validation, the unconditional love, the protection she always deserved. Talk to her. Listen to her needs. Promise her you'll never abandon her again in search of approval from those incapable of loving. Eighth way. Stop being attracted to emotionally unavailable people. You were conditioned to equate love with drama, intimacy with pain, connection with shared trauma. Your attraction pattern was formed in the dysfunctional dynamic with your father. Break this pattern. Learn to be attracted to emotionally available people who don't need you to regulate their emotions, who can love without projecting their shadows. It might seem boring at first because there's no drama, but that's the feeling of healthy love. Ninth way. Develop a conscious relationship with your personal power. The scapegoat is kept in a state of powerlessness, always dependent on external approval and validation. You were taught to doubt your perception, your capability, your right to lead your own life. Reconnect with your innate power. Make decisions based on your intuition, not on the fear of rejection. Trust your ability to create the life you desire. You don't need anyone's permission to be who you truly are. Your power doesn't diminish when you use it. It multiplies. 10th way. Transform your wound into wisdom, your trauma into purpose. You went through the hardest initiation there is, the symbolic death of the ego through family rejection. You descended into the emotional underworld and survived. This journey gave you access to territories of the psyche that normal people never explore. Use this hard-won wisdom to help others who are going through the same journey. Your ability to see through the masks, to identify toxic patterns, to understand the mechanics of trauma is a gift that can heal. You didn't go through this pain for nothing. It was your initiation to become a healer of souls. Now that you know the 10 ways to transform your wound into strength, how do you begin this journey of integration? The scapegoat's healing doesn't just happen on a mental level. It requires deep work with the unconscious layers of the psyche. Grab a journal and start a conscious dialogue with your inner child. Ask her, what did you most need to hear from Dad? Write the answer without censoring. Then, as the conscious adult you are now, respond to that child with the love and validation she always deserved. Practice what Jung called active imagination. Visualize yourself returning to your childhood home, but now, as the strong, conscious adult you've become. Observe that child being rejected, criticized, diminished. Approach her, take her out of that situation, look into her eyes and say, you are not the problem. You never were the problem. You are perfect exactly as you are. Identify the patterns you still reproduce in your adult life. When do you automatically put yourself in the role of the guilty one? When do you make yourself small to not bother anyone? When do you take responsibility for emotions that aren't yours? Awareness is the first step to freedom. Develop self-honoring rituals. Celebrate your achievements, even the small ones. Recognize your courage, your sensitivity, your ability to love despite the pain. You deserve recognition, especially your own. You are no longer that defenseless child who needed to carry the weight of the family shadow to survive. You are now the conscious observer of your own story, the author of a new narrative, the healer of your own wounds. You are no longer the scapegoat. You are the hero of your individuation journey. You are no longer the shadow collector. You are the alchemist who transforms lead into gold. You are no longer the family's problem child. You are the living expression of courage, authenticity, and self-love. The father who couldn't love you missed the opportunity to know the extraordinary soul you always were. But you haven't lost anything, because now you know how to love yourself. And this self-love you've gained through pain is stronger, more real, more lasting than any external validation could be. Comment which of the 10 ways resonated most with you. Like if you felt the courage to look at your shadow and find light. Subscribe to continue this journey of transformation, because your healing inspires the healing of others. The scapegoat's wound becomes the source of your greatest wisdom. Integrate.